Hey, so I'm filming this at the end of day 3, wearing makeup every day. Obviously not right now though, because it's past midnight and I'm ready for bed. But I was just having a thought because I had therapy today and we touched on dissociation a little bit, but I'm really hopeless in the therapy sessions. Like my brain kind of just shuts it out and I don't know what I wanted to say anymore, and I can't remember a lot of the stuff that I'm supposed to talk about or open up about. So like, if it's not in my brain, how can I open up about it? It's a frustrating situation, but I did manage to talk a little bit about it. And, I mentioned how last year I went through that whole thing of wondering, do I have dissociation in terms of like my sense of self being kind of, detached and split off, and, some of the weird experiences that I've had. Like I went through this whole thing of, do I have dissociation or is this some kind of delusion? Because having got the schizoid personality disorder diagnosis, I'm aware that in some people schizoid is pre-morbid to schizophrenia. And so there's like a bit of a link there. And I thought, oh, what if I'm delusional and it's sort of like a really mild schizophrenia or something like that? Of course, later I came across, people's personal accounts of what it's like to actually have a proper delusion, and kind of blew my mind because like what I'm talking about is relatively benign, and the fact that I spend so long wondering if it's a delusion kind of is a sign that it's probably not. And then the sort of subject matter as well, very different kinds of stuff. So I've accepted that I don't experience delusions, but with the dissociation stuff, one of the things I said to her today was, like, I'm not really sure if that's the right terminology for what I'm experiencing right now, because, like I have been going through a bit of a thing where the darker part of me seems to be influencing me in ways that it's done in the past. Like the whole reason I do goth stuff is because of that part of me. And, I've just noticed like things in the way that I carry myself, my willingness to wear that makeup, and then like I've been walking around in interesting shoes, especially today, and I was wearing my spiked wristbands again, and just like all this stuff that I haven't had the energy to do in ages, and have just been depressed so much, and honestly suicidal this year. Like I've just been going through this really horrible time, really low energy, real slump, hard to get anything done. I still managed to get things done, but overall I've just had this experience of really having very little energy. And that was sort of continuing, and like all the issues with the childhood trauma and sort of going over that in my head, and then things about my current situation that haven't changed, that are tricky. Just a lot of stuff getting me down, and of course the sleep situation here, not getting enough sleep. I'm chronically on a sleep deficit. There's just so much stuff, and up until Wednesday, so like till Tuesday night, just really, really low energy, and I keep thinking, how can I break out of this? What if I tried this? What if I tried that? And things don't happen. But then Wednesday morning, despite going to bed late and all that, I woke up and I did the makeup thing. Like I always tell myself, what if I did this? What if I did that? But for some reason on Wednesday, I actually did it. I don't know why. I have mentioned in the video that I filmed yesterday, Thursday. I don't even know when all this is going live, but I did mention the thing about like behavioral activation and how doing makeup is a lot easier than going for a swim, for example. But still, like, there's a lot of little things that I keep telling myself to do, and why did this one seem to work this time, and why did it seem to bring more of that out of me, whereas, like, another thing that tends to, or in the past has triggered that part of me to sort of emerge in my consciousness, is if I watch particular kinds of fiction, usually to do with some kind of duality. My God, it's hard to talk in my retainer. I'm sorry. But like I didn't even do that this time. It was just the makeup thing, and like I didn't watch anything before that. I've actually gotten a bit slack on Xena lately. Did I watch it on Tuesday? I don't even remember when the last time I watched Xena. It might have been Tuesday. Fuck knows. I just not understanding like how I went from really kind of depressed and not wanting to be here one night, and then the next day I suddenly got energy again. I'm making videos. I've got the makeup. I think, did I wear the Cyberlocks in that video? I did, because it was the t-shirt one. And just like, yeah, and then okay, so every now and then I do have a productive day, right? And I'll get a lot done, but I often like overdo it, and then the next day I will be back to that shit mood and not able to do anything. But then Thursday, like the day after, I'm still able to get things done and still walking around with makeup and managing despite having not slept enough. And then today again, waking up, like I actually had really disrupted sleep this morning. I even tried to go to bed earlier knowing that I had to go to therapy, but then I heard possum noises and it was 2 a.m. and I'm like, and then Mikey woke up early at 5 a.m. and then I couldn't sleep for 2 hours, and then every half hour there was some kind of noise that was waking me up out of like, just drifting off, and then boom, some other kind of noise. So I really didn't get that much sleep last night, and I thought for sure I would wake up feeling shit. But no, I managed to get up ahead of schedule, and I did my makeup, and I took my dog for a walk before going to therapy. And also I fixed an internet problem because, Dad tried to fix a thing with the internet, and I had to fix his fix. Boomers. I don't even know if he counts technically as a boomer. Like, where's the cutoff? I don't even remember. But he's probably a boomer. He's close enough to being a boomer. Anyway, old people with technology. But yeah, no. So 3 days in a row I've managed to do this. And I turned up to therapy wearing the dark eyeliner and the spikes, and just noticing more and more the way that my attitude is changing. What's different this time, though, is I'm not having the really intense separation from my sense of self where, like, I start feeling kind of maybe lightheaded, and there's, like, these weird tingly feelings that come with it, and it's, like, it can be quite strong, and it can get quite disturbing. Instead, it's just like I'm noticing that my behavior is changing a lot, and it's in a way that doesn't just feel like a mood. It's really hard to describe because I don't know that I've had this, like the way it's happening now, I don't know that I've had it a lot. But anyway, so because I'm not having that, like I know it takes me forever to get to the point. At least I'm hopefully remembering. But so because I'm not having that really intense dissociation, like I've had periods where I will just end up sitting for a long time, sort of struggling with the feeling and not knowing how I want to act, and my body sort of gets stuck in this, just like I can't do anything because one part of me wants to do something, the other part of me is trying to stop that happening, and it's just like disconcerting. And then sometimes I will go fully into not being me, and that can take up time to like pull myself back out of it. It's so hard to describe this stuff. And yeah, there's just like a lot of things that tell me it's more intense. Whereas here, it's just like I'm noticing a serious shift in my behavior and thinking, but at the same time, I'm still able to think as myself, but I'm noticing like different thoughts and feelings. I don't know. In when it comes to like the DID community, maybe they'd call it co-consciousness, but I don't think it's even like the way they describe it still isn't what I'm really going through. It just like, because it doesn't feel like that full-on split. I said to my psychologist, like, I don't know if dissociation is really the right word for it. Like, how do I tell the difference between that and this being some kind of a mood, and I just can't recognize it as a mood, or some kind of mode of being. I don't know. And mentioning stuff about how I saw the dissociation specialist, and finding out later that she was kind of trying to label me with DID when I clearly don't have DID because I don't have gaps in my memory. She might be going for the more structural dissociation definition where you could like forcibly weasel me in, but I think structural dissociation has a lot of flaws to it, because it doesn't account for things like derealization, depersonalization, and it brings PTSD into it and a few other things. I think it also brings borderline into it, and so it's like it kind of it's missing things and it's adding things that shouldn't be there, and I just don't know about the validity of it. Also, a lot of DID research in general, I mean, I'm not up to date with the latest, but a lot of it just seems kind of sketchy. Maybe that's changed, but anyway, I said to her, like, also I don't know if the whole dissociation thing is really valid to look at because, the science is kind of iffy, and like there's no way to definitively prove it at this point as far as I'm aware. They talk about brain scans, but I don't remember that being that conclusive. It probably needs to be repeated more and maybe need a more of a sample size. But last year I was seeing a different psychologist at the same clinic, and she did try to tell me like, not everything that is valid has managed to be studied by science yet. Because like, if you take schizoid for an example, like enough research has been done to say that schizoid is probably a thing, but because schizoids don't tend to get involved in research and don't tend to come forward for treatment, there's not a lot about us. So yeah, like it's a thing, but there's a limited amount of science. With DID, like, it's even sketchier because I guess like it's even harder to figure that out. And then there's also been like the social contagion aspect of it, when Sybil came out. Now you could argue, or maybe it's just more awareness, but there's also people who've been convinced that they had a condition that they didn't actually have. And I think the DID specialist, the dissociation specialist I saw, was kind of trying to push that on me because she wants to find it. She finds it fascinating. She wants to believe that I have that condition. I didn't really go into all this detail today with the therapist, but like just those kinds of doubts that I've had, but also recognizing that it could still be valid and maybe the research just hasn't been done. But to finally get to the point of this whole ramble and why I'm making this ramble, I've just been thinking about something my psychologist said today where she was saying like, this was at the very end of the session where I was just trying to make myself talk about this stuff. So it was very quick and kind of rushed. But when she said like, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's real, if conceptualizing yourself in a particular way helps. And I'm still not entirely sure what I think about that, because I think my initial reaction was like, so, like letting people believe what they want to believe, even if it's wrong. Like, that's kind of what I was hearing. But on the other hand, if it helps me like get my head around the way that I operate, given that like, I'm aware that everything is me, everything's in my brain, but trying to reconcile it, like if I saw myself in that sort of DID-ish way of like, having the parts of me sort of being separately defined, could that actually help? It's an interesting idea, and because I'm so like, I tend to be more in that sciencey kind of vibe, it's hard for me to think about. But I've got to try and be open to the idea, right? And like, what if that is a more helpful way to think about it? But on the other hand, like, I feel like there's also the potential to open a can of worms, because it's something that I've struggled with for a long time, and I've also been very insecure about, depending on like my state of mind, because if it's more of a thing, there's more of a pressure for me to express stuff about it. And very early on in my YouTube life, you won't find these videos anymore. Probably no one saved them and I lost my copies, but I used to be a bit more open about this stuff, and I was really struggling with things at that time, and so more of it was coming out on the camera. Not in the way that the kids do with like all these Switch videos or whatever, but I probably came across as a lot crazier than I do now. Where am I going with this? It's just, like at that time, I was more open about it, but it was also like harder to deal with in some ways, because I was having more of those experiences where I feel like I'm not myself. And there's also like this kind of pressure inside me to, I don't know, like it's just like this dissatisfaction, and I guess like the way that part of me thinks, and not being satisfied with the way that I am in my life and all these kinds of things. It's kind of jarring, I guess, to let myself think in that way. If I have the choice, I don't know if I have the choice. So I guess like I don't know how I want to treat that whole part of my psychology. Like, do I humor it in that way as a sort of conceptualization while still thinking like it's not really a thing? But the other problem is like when I get into that other state of mind, it thinks it's real. It's like, like if you read a book, the characters within the book think they're real. They don't know they're characters in the book. Unless it's someone like Deadpool, those characters that break the fourth wall. But generally, a fictional character doesn't know that it's not real. Now, that's not to say that this is entirely fictional, because it's still a part of me, so I guess it kind of is real, but, like, in terms of being separate from me, I don't really think so. I don't know. I just don't know what to think about it. Like, I guess I've got to see how I feel in another 2 weeks when I see my psychologist again, and whether I'm still in this kind of mode of being, because if I can't keep this up, if my energy ends and I go back into that sort of depressed vibe, that seems to suppress a lot of this sort of different way of thinking. But there have, like, I don't know, I guess I wonder if it's also important to my mental health, in the sense that in the past, when I've been really badly depressed and not wanted to be here, it was really that part of me that sort of kept me going, because I just was like, well, I don't want to live, but this part of me still has things to do, so I'll do all that kind of stuff, or try and find a safe way to do those kinds of things that it's thinking about. And it does add a sense of motivation to do things that I just, like, don't see myself doing, but then I've ended up doing them. Like, the fact that I have a gothic wardrobe, and the fact that I do metal vocals, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I really saw myself as the maths nerd kind of thing. I'm still stuck in that past, even though I haven't done maths in a long time. I didn't really enjoy maths, it was just what I was good at, and I guess maybe nerdy, sciencey things. Yeah, it's just sort of jarring in my sense of self. And, like, I've tried to sort of bring the different parts of me together, but that hasn't always gone well. And I don't know, it's just like, my brain just doesn't want to be that coherent for whatever reason. Yeah, and I don't know, like, at the moment, I am doing better, and I wonder if it's because of tapping into that part of me somehow, and doing the makeup, and doing dressing a bit more interestingly in some ways, and making more YouTube videos, and, like, putting effort into things all of a sudden out of nowhere. Like, I hope I can sustain it, and maybe humoring that part of me is how I have to do it, or just accepting that it's a thing, and that I'm doing things that I don't expect to be doing, and I'm feeling things that I don't feel like are my own feelings. Yeah, it's confusing. But it's probably better than sitting around moping, so maybe I shouldn't be so insecure. But I guess I worry about how far it could go, and am I going to start making videos, like, in character again, like I did do some of those way back in my early YouTube days. Occasionally, very rarely, I think. I don't actually remember. And yeah, I just, like, I don't know that I want people to see me that way. Behaving differently, and, like, all the implications of those things. It's a bit nerve-wracking. So, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out what, and I guess we'll see, like, my energy could completely drop off tomorrow, and this video will be irrelevant, but I'll upload it anyway. Hey, I guess this is like a midnight musing, isn't it? Because well, it just hit 1 a.m. But I'm gonna call it a midnight musing. I don't know, like, how should I think about this dissociation stuff? And, does it help that I know I'm not like one of these kids making their trendy DID videos, or do I risk becoming that, which is not attractive to me? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to think about it. Anyway, there's probably other thoughts that I have on the topic, but of course I don't plan my videos, so if I'm missing something, well, whatever. I'm going to get to bed before I do go proper crazy, because when I have that more detached feeling, it tends to be late at night. So I should put the camera away and go to bed before I get up to no good. Bye.